Pause for a moment. Take a breath. You already know what this is about. There is a truth you have felt quietly, repeatedly, without naming it. Not because you are weak, but because facing it changes everything. Avoidance is human. It protects you from discomfort, from effort, from responsibility. But protection has a cost, and you have been paying it in silence. This is not comfort. This is clarity. A clear moment where excuses fall away and honesty stands in front of you. You now have a choice. Continue walking around what you already know, or step forward and face it fully. If you stay, nothing truly changes. If you step forward, nothing stays the same. You feel the pull inside, the quiet pressure urging you to rise, decide, and become more than you were before now. This is the moment everything changes for you. Not tomorrow, not later, now. Chapter 1. The truth you keep stepping around. You have been here before. At the edge, close enough to see what must be done, yet far enough to delay it. Not because you lack ability, but because standing still feels safer than stepping forward. This is not failure, this is avoidance. And avoidance is quiet. It does not announce itself. It hides inside routines, distractions, and reasonable explanations. It wears the mask of patience, timing, and preparation. But beneath it all, there is a knowing, a calm, persistent awareness you cannot silence. You know what you have been stepping around. You know which conversations you delay, which decisions you postpone, which actions you promise yourself you will take later. Later becomes tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes months. Months quietly become years. This is how potential fades without noise. Picture yourself standing at the edge of a wide space. The ground behind you feels familiar, predictable. The ground ahead demands movement, effort, and responsibility. You lean forward. You feel the pull. Then you stop, not because you cannot jump, but because jumping changes who you must become. Avoidance does not mean you are incapable. It means you are aware. Aware that stepping forward requires ownership. Ownership of your choices, ownership of your time, ownership of your life. Distraction becomes an escape. You stay busy instead of effective, occupied instead of committed. You fill silence with noise because silence asks questions, and those questions wait. You feel them when things slow down, when the noise fades, when you are alone with your thoughts. They ask you who you are becoming. They ask you if this is enough. You do not need to answer them yet. You only need to stop running from them. Stop avoiding. Look directly. There is relief in honesty. Not comfort, but relief. The relief of no longer pretending you do not see what is in front of you. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are simply standing still at a moment that demands movement. Avoidance feels gentle at first. It whispers. It says, rest a little longer. Wait until you are ready. But readiness does not arrive on its own. It is built. Every time you delay, something inside you tightens. Every time you choose distraction, your standards quietly lower. Not all at once, gradually, silently. This is why the truth matters, because truth interrupts drift. Facing truth does not require aggression. It requires presence, the willingness to see clearly without defense. Defense keeps you small. Ownership expands you. You do not need to judge your past. Judgment wastes energy. You only need to recognize patterns. Notice where you hesitate. Notice where you avoid discomfort. Notice where you choose familiar struggle over unfamiliar growth. This awareness is the beginning of leadership. Leadership starts inward, before titles, before recognition, before results. You lead yourself by facing what you would rather ignore. There is strength in staying present when escape is easier. There is courage in admitting what you already know. You are not being asked to leap blindly. You are being asked to stop circling the edge. Stand still here. Feel the moment. Do not rush it away. You are capable of more than maintenance, more than survival, more than repeating the same cycles with new justifications. Growth begins when you stop negotiating with yourself. This is where identity begins to shift, not through motivation, but through honesty. You do not need to change everything today. You need to change direction. One step toward truth outweighs years of avoidance. Breathe. Let the weight settle. You are not late. You are early in becoming aware. This is the first moment where ownership replaces delay, where clarity replaces comfort. Say it quietly if you need to. Say it internally with certainty. I am ready. You feel it now. The stillness before movement, the pause before commitment. This is where momentum is born, and once it begins, it does not stop quietly. Chapter 2. Comfort is the quiet enemy. Comfort rarely announces itself as a threat. It arrives gently. It feels reasonable. It tells you that you deserve rest, that you have time, that nothing urgent is required right now. Comfort speaks softly. That is why it is dangerous. At first, comfort feels like safety. It gives you predictability. It reduces friction. It allows you to move through your days without resistance. And resistance, after all, can feel exhausting. But comfort does not protect your future. It protects your present habits. You wake up and follow familiar routines. You do what you know how to do. You repeat what once worked. Nothing is broken. Nothing is collapsing. And that is exactly the problem. Stagnation rarely feels dramatic. It feels calm. You begin to mistake ease for alignment. You assume that because things are not painful, they must be right. Yet growth has never lived inside ease. Comfort makes no demands. It does not ask you to stretch. It does not ask you to risk. It does not ask you to change. It simply asks you to change. It simply asks you to change. It simply asks you to stay. Staying feels harmless until time passes. Days blur together. Weeks slide by. Years move quietly forward while potential waits unused. This is how discipline weakens, not through failure, but through neglect. Discipline is not lost in moments of collapse. It erodes in moments of comfort. You begin to choose what feels good instead of what builds strength. You delay effort because rest feels justified. You postpone challenges because comfort feels earned. And slowly, your standards adjust downward to match your environment. Not because you lack ambition, but because comfort dulls urgency. Comfort does not tell you to quit. It tells you to relax. It tells you that tomorrow will be better. It tells you that now is not the time. Tomorrow becomes a promise that never arrives. Look closely at routine. Routine can either sharpen you or soften you. There is a difference between structure and stagnation. Structure creates progress. Stagnation preserves comfort. When routine exists without challenge, it becomes a cage you decorate instead of escape. You know this feeling, the sense that something is missing, even when everything appears fine. The quiet dissatisfaction you push aside because nothing seems wrong enough to confront. Comfort thrives in that silence. It convinces you that discomfort is unnecessary, that effort is optional, that pressure is unhealthy, but pressure reveals capacity. Growth asks for effort. Leadership demands friction. Strength requires resistance. Comfort removes all three. This is why comfort steals potential, not by force, but by permission. You allow yourself to stay where you are because it feels acceptable. Not excellent, not expansive, just acceptable. And acceptable slowly becomes permanent. Wake up. This is not a call to exhaustion. It is a call to intention. Effort is not punishment. Effort is alignment with who you are meant to become. When you avoid effort, you are not protecting yourself. You are postponing yourself. Comfort tells you to stay the same. Growth asks you to rise. There is tension here. You feel it when comfort pulls you one way and ambition pulls you another. That tension is not a problem. It is a signal. Signals guide those who pay attention. Effort does not require chaos. It requires choice. Choosing effort means choosing purpose over ease. It means doing what strengthens you instead of what soothes you. Comfort soothes. Effort builds. Soothing feels good in the moment. Building feels meaningful over time. You were not designed for constant ease. You were designed for progress. Every time you choose comfort over effort, you trade future strength for present relief. Every time you choose effort, you reclaim control. Control over your direction, control over your direction, control over your identity. This is where leadership begins, not when conditions are ideal, but when comfort tempts you to stop and you continue anyway. You do not need to remove comfort completely. You need to stop letting it lead. Comfort should follow effort, not replace it. Notice where your days feel too smooth. Notice where your days feel too smooth. Notice where challenge has disappeared. Notice where growth has slowed because nothing is demanding more from you. These are not failures, they are invitations. Invitations to choose effort again. Choose effort, not loudly, not dramatically, consistently. Effort in how you think, effort in how you act, effort in how you hold yourself accountable. Comfort weakens discipline when discipline is optional, but discipline strengthens confidence when it is chosen. Confidence grows when you keep promises to yourself. Discipline is the promise keeper. Comfort breaks those promises quietly. You begin to trust yourself less, not consciously, subtly, because you know when you avoid effort, you feel it internally, even if no one else sees it. Effort restores trust. Each time you do what is difficult but necessary, something solidifies inside you. A quiet certainty, a grounded strength. That strength does not come from comfort, it comes from consistency. Imagine who you become when comfort no longer controls you, when ease no longer dictates your decisions, when effort becomes familiar instead of frightening. You move differently, you think differently. You carry yourself with quiet authority, because you know you can do hard things. Comfort never teaches that lesson. Growth does. This is not about punishment, it is about purpose. Effort aligns you with your future self. Comfort anchors you to your current limits. You are capable of more than ease allows. You feel it when you push slightly beyond what feels comfortable. That feeling is not strain, it is expansion. Let comfort exist, but do not serve it. Let ease appear, but do not obey it. You decide. Wake up, choose effort, not once, again and again. Each choice builds momentum. Each effort strengthens discipline. This is how stagnation ends, not with force, but with awareness. You are no longer drifting, you are directing. And once you feel that shift, once effort becomes intentional instead of optional, comfort loses its quiet power. What replaces it is clarity, and clarity prepares you for what comes next. Chapter 3. Weakness is not what you think. Weakness has been misunderstood for a long time. You were taught to associate it with failure, with falling short, with not being enough. But weakness is rarely loud, it is rarely dramatic, and it is almost never visible on the surface. True weakness hides behind avoidance. Struggle is not weakness. Effort is not weakness. Feeling pressure is not weakness. Avoidance is. Avoidance is the quiet decision to look away instead of looking deeper. It is the habit of stepping back when forward movement feels uncomfortable. It is choosing distance from reality instead of engagement with it. You can struggle openly and still be strong. You can fail publicly and still be powerful. But when you refuse to confront what is real, strength has no place to stand. This matters because you have been mislabeling yourself. You have mistaken hesitation for inability. You have mistaken fear for incapacity. Fear is not a verdict. Fear is information. Fear points to what matters. Fear signals growth at the edge of your current identity. Fear shows you where expansion is possible. Avoidance ignores that signal. When fear appears, you have two choices. You can use it as data, or you can use it as an excuse. Using fear as data keeps you present. Using it as an excuse sends you backward. Weakness begins when you choose the second option repeatedly. You tell yourself you are protecting your energy. You say you are waiting for clarity. You convince yourself that now is not the right time. But clarity does not come before confrontation. It comes after. This is where the conflict begins. Not with the world, with yourself. There is a version of you that prefers familiarity. That version values safety over growth. That version has learned how to survive without stretching. And there is another version of you forming quietly beneath the surface, one that senses there is more, one that feels restless when things stay the same, one that is no longer satisfied with avoidance disguised as patience. These two versions cannot coexist peacefully. One must lead. The old self knows how to avoid. The emerging self knows how to face. Facing does not mean forcing. It means staying present when discomfort appears. It means resisting the urge to escape, mentally or emotionally. Stay present. Presence is strength. When you stay present with fear, it loses authority. It no longer controls your movement. It no longer dictates your decisions. You begin to see fear clearly, not as an enemy, but as a signal that something important is happening. This is the first noticeable shift, not in circumstances, in identity. You stop asking, "Can I handle this?" and start asking, "What is this teaching me?" That question changes everything. Avoidance keeps you focused on relief. Presence keeps you focused on growth. Growth requires awareness. Awareness requires honesty. Honesty does not criticize, it observes. Observe where you pull back. Observe where you hesitate. Observe where you hesitate. Observe where fear appears and how quickly you try to remove it. You are not wrong for feeling fear. You are not weak for noticing resistance. Weakness would be pretending it is not there. Face it. Facing fear does not mean acting recklessly. It means refusing to lie to yourself about what you're experiencing. When you stay present, fear changes shape. It becomes information. It becomes guidance. You learn what needs strengthening. You learn where discipline is missing. You learn which skills require development. Avoidance teaches nothing. Presence teaches everything. This is why struggle builds strength. Struggle forces engagement. Avoidance avoids learning. Every time you stay present through discomfort, something internal recalibrates. You begin to trust yourself, not because things feel easy, but because you did not leave when they became difficult. Trust is built through consistency, not success. This is where leadership forms. Leadership is not the absence of fear. It is the refusal to abandon yourself in its presence. The old version of you avoided discomfort because it felt unsafe. The emerging version understands that safety without growth becomes confinement. You cannot expand inside a cage, even if it feels comfortable. Weakness is not being challenged. Weakness is avoiding the challenge because it threatens your current identity. And identity can change. That realization is powerful. You are not fixed. You are not locked into old patterns. You are not required to remain who you were yesterday. But change demands confrontation. You cannot grow around truth. You must go through it. This is why presence matters. Presence anchors you in reality. Reality is where strength lives. Illusions feel pleasant, but they collapse under pressure. Reality holds. When you stay present, you stop negotiating with fear. You stop trying to eliminate it. You allow it to exist without control. That is maturity. Maturity is staying when leaving feels easier. Notice how your posture changes when you stay present. Notice how your thoughts slow down. Notice how clarity begins to emerge without force. Clarity follows courage. This is not about proving anything to anyone else. This is about integrity with yourself. Integrity means your actions align with what you know. Avoidance breaks that alignment. Presence restores it. Each time you face what you once avoided, your identity strengthens. You become someone who can be trusted by yourself. That trust compounds. You stop doubting your ability to handle difficulty. You stop underestimating your resilience. You realize that fear did not break you before. Avoidance did. Struggle sharpened you. Avoidance softened your edges. Now you are sharpening again. This is not dramatic. It is deliberate. Deliberate presence. Deliberate engagement. Stay present. You do not need to win today. You need to remain. Remain in the moment. Remain with the truth. Remain with yourself. Remain with yourself. This is the turning point. You are no longer trying to escape discomfort. You are learning from it. That shift changes how you move through everything. Challenges become feedback. Fear becomes instruction. Pressure becomes preparation. And weakness loses its meaning. Because weakness was never struggle, it was refusal. You are no longer refusing. Say it internally with certainty. Let it settle without force. I decide who I become. That decision carries weight. It signals the end of avoidance and the beginning of ownership. You feel the difference now. The old self loosening its grip. The emerging self stepping forward with quiet confidence. This is not the end of fear. It is the end of running from it. And from here, everything begins to change. Chapter 4. Discipline begins in silence. There comes a point where noise no longer helps you. Advice becomes repetition. Motivation becomes excess. Words lose their sharpness. What remains is silence. Silence is not empty. It is precise. It removes distraction and exposes intention. This is where discipline actually begins, not in announcements, not in declarations, not in moments where others are watching. True discipline grows in quiet places, in decisions made without witnesses, in actions taken without validation. Think of a strong tree. Its strength is not in what you see above the ground. It is in the roots you never notice, deep, unseen, anchored. Roots do not compete for attention. They do not ask to be admired. They grow downward, patiently, doing the work that allows everything above to stand. This is how discipline works. When you begin, there is often noise. You talk about change. You imagine results. You feel energy rise. But energy fades if it is not supported by structure. Silence creates structure. Silence removes performance. It strips away the need to be seen. It leaves only commitment. This is stabilizing. After tension, silence restores balance. It allows you to breathe without retreating. It creates space where intention becomes steady. In silence, excuses are louder. That is why most people avoid it. Silence reveals patterns. It shows you where discipline is weak, where focus fractures, where comfort tries to return quietly. This is not punishment, it is clarity. When no one is watching, who are you? When there is no reward, do you still act? When there is no pressure, do you remain consistent? These answers shape identity. Discipline that depends on attention collapses without it. Discipline built in silence remains. This is where self-leadership forms. You begin to work without announcing progress. You move without explaining direction. You choose restraint over reaction. Silence strengthens resolve. There is power in keeping effort private. It removes comparison. It removes urgency for approval. You stop measuring yourself against others. You measure against your standards. Standards sharpen focus. Focus is not loud. It does not demand attention. It directs it. Stay focused. Focus means you decide what matters and remove what does not once, repeatedly. Silence supports this repetition. When external noise fades, internal discipline grows. Your thoughts slow. Your reactions soften. Your directions soften. Your direction becomes clearer. This is calm authority, not dominance, not force. Presence. Presence holds weight. You do not rush. You do not chase. You do not explain. You act. Silence teaches patience. Patience strengthens control. Control is not restriction. It is alignment. Aligned effort compounds. When you work quietly, results feel grounded. They do not shock you. They feel earned. Silence also protects momentum. It keeps your plans intact while they develop. It allows growth without interference. Not everyone needs access to your process. Privacy is not secrecy born of fear. It is discipline born of intention. You protect what matters while it is forming. Like roots beneath the soil, they grow best when undisturbed. Be quiet. This is not withdrawal. It is concentration. Concentration deepens discipline. Discipline builds trust. Trust in yourself. When you show up consistently without external pressure, confidence settles in naturally. You no longer question your reliability. You have evidence. Evidence built in silence. This changes how you carry yourself. Your posture shifts. Your presence steadies. You speak less because you need less explanation. Silence does not make you smaller. It makes you precise. You become selective with energy, intentional with action, clear with boundaries. Discipline refines identity. You begin to notice how much noise you once needed, how much reassurance, how much permission. Now, you move without asking. Silence removes dependency. You no longer require motivation to act. You rely on commitment, but not fluctuate. It holds through boredom, through repetition, through slow progress. This is emotional stability, not excitement. Consistency. Consistency builds strength that does not crack under pressure. Silence also prepares you for leadership. Leaders do not react to every sound. They listen selectively. They act deliberately. They understand that not everything deserves response. Silence teaches restraint. Restraint sharpens judgment. Judgment directs effort. This sequence builds authority. Quiet authority does not demand attention. It commands respect through steadiness. You feel it internally before others notice it externally. This is how identity settles. No rush, no noise, no performance, just alignment. Stay focused. Focus is not intensity. It is clarity sustained over time. When distractions appear, you notice them without following. When comfort whispers, you acknowledge it without obeying. This is discipline maturing. Mature discipline is calm, unshaken, reliable. You do not need to force yourself. You have trained yourself. You have trained yourself. Silence allowed that training to take root. Now, effort feels natural, not heavy, not dramatic. Purpose replaces pressure. This is the quiet phase where strength consolidates, where habits lock in, where identity stabilizes. Nothing flashy happens here. Everything important does. You are no longer proving anything. You are becoming something. That becoming happens quietly. And when movement returns, when the world grows louder again, you will not be distracted, because your roots are deep. You are steady, focused, prepared. Silence has done its work. Chapter 5. The cost of delay rarely feels dangerous. It feels small, almost harmless. One choice postponed, one action delayed, one decision pushed into the future, with the quiet promise that it will be handled later. Later feels safe. Later feels flexible. Later feels forgiving. But time does not treat delay as neutral. Time records it. Delay is not the absence of decision. Delay is a decision made quietly, without courage, without ownership. Every time you wait instead of act, something subtle happens. Nothing collapses. Nothing breaks. Life continues. That is why delay is so costly. It does not demand attention. It does not force correction. It allows you to keep moving while drifting slightly off course. At first the distance is small, barely noticeable. A day passes, then another. You tell yourself it is fine. You are still close enough to where you intended to go. But drift compounds. Time is not a straight line. You can pause. It is a current. If you are not directing movement, you are being carried. Delay allows the current to decide for you. You do not lose years all at once. You lose them in fragments, moments, opportunities, windows that quietly close while you're preparing to open them. Preparation without action becomes a loop. You stay busy, you stay informed, you stay almost ready. Almost is where delay lives. Almost disciplined, almost ready. Almost is where delay lives. Almost disciplined. Almost does not build a future. Look closely at time. Time does not rush you. It does not pressure you. It simply continues. And that is where the pressure comes from. Each day that passes without movement adds weight. Not emotional weight, structural weight. Because the longer you delay, the harder it becomes to start. Starting later requires more energy than starting now. Delay increases resistance. What would have been simple becomes complicated. What would have been light becomes heavy. You begin to carry regret, not because you failed, but because you waited. Regret does not come from effort, it comes from inaction. This is accountability without shame. You are not being accused, you are being invited to see clearly. Delay has consequences whether you acknowledge them or not. It shapes your confidence. It reshapes your identity. Each time you delay a decision you know must be made, trust in yourself weakens slightly, not enough to notice immediately, enough to matter over time. You begin to question your reliability, your consistency, your follow-through, not consciously, internally. That internal doubt is expensive. It makes future decisions harder. It adds hesitation where certainty should live. Delay does not just waste time, it trains hesitation, and hesitation becomes habit. This is how years disappear without dramatic failure. not through collapse, through comfort, through postponement, through repeated decisions to wait instead of move. You look back one day and wonder where the time went. Time went where you told it to go. Into waiting. Delay is patient. It does not rush you into regret. It allows you to drift until the distance feels too large to ignore. Then it shows you the cost. That cost is not punishment. It is arithmetic. Time multiplied by avoidance equals loss. Loss of momentum. Loss of clarity. Loss of momentum. Loss of clarity. Loss of belief in your ability to act when it matters. But this is not final. The moment you see delay clearly, its power weakens. Awareness interrupts drift. You are not late. You are not behind beyond repair. You are standing in a moment that still allows choice. But the window narrows the longer you wait. This is not fear. This is precision. Life rewards movement aligned with truth. Delay keeps you negotiating with yourself. Movement ends negotiation. The pressure you feel now is not external. It is internal alignment trying to happen. You know what needs attention. You know what you have postponed. You know which decisions have been waiting for courage. They have not disappeared. They have been accumulating. Each unresolved decision occupies mental space. Each delayed action adds weight. Each day denied grows tired of carrying unfinished business. That fatigue is often mistaken for lack of motivation. It is not motivation you lack, it is resolution. Resolution requires decision. Decide. Deciding does not guarantee ease. It guarantees direction. Direction reduces friction. When you decide, energy organizes itself. Focus sharpens. Doubt quiets. Delay keeps energy scattered. You spend more effort avoiding action than the action itself would require. This is the hidden cost. Delay drains vitality. Action restores it. Even difficult action brings relief, because movement aligns you with time instead of fighting it. Time moves forward regardless. When you move with it, progress feels natural. When you resist, pressure builds. That pressure is building now, not to punish you, to wake you. Wake up. Delay is not kindness. It is comfort pretending to be patience. Patience has direction. Delay avoids it. Patience moves forward slowly. Delay stands still while pretending to prepare. You have prepared enough. Preparation without execution becomes avoidance. This is where accountability matters. Not blame, not guilt. Responsibility, responsibility, responsibility gives you power. When you accept that delay is a choice, you reclaim agency. Agency means you can choose differently. Move now. Movement does not require perfection. It requires honesty. Honesty about what matters. Honesty about what matters. Honesty about what must be addressed. Action taken with clarity carries momentum. Momentum is fragile at first. It grows with repetition. Delay suffocates momentum before it can form. That is why urgency matters. Urgency is not panic. It is respect for time. Time deserves respect. Every hour is a resource. Every day is an opportunity. Opportunity does not wait to be convinced. It moves on. You either meet it or miss it. This is not dramatic language. It is structural truth. Structures either support growth or restrict it. Delay builds restricted structures. Decisions build supportive ones. You are building something whether you choose to or not. The question is what? Do not wait. Waiting feels safe because it avoids immediate risk, but it guarantees long-term cost. Short-term discomfort prevents long-term regret. This is the trade. Most people avoid short-term discomfort and inherit long-term dissatisfaction. You do not have to. You can choose discomfort now. Discomfort is temporary. Regret lingers. Move now. You do not need certainty. You need commitment. Commitment clarifies what certainty cannot. Action reveals answers. Delay hides them. The longer you wait, the more you imagine obstacles. The moment you move, many of those obstacles dissolve. Imagination exaggerates difficulty. Experience corrects it. This is why delay feeds fear, and movement feeds confidence. Confidence is not built by thinking, it is built by doing. Doing requires decision. Decide. This is the turning point. The pressure rises here because truth demands response. You cannot unknow what you now see. Delay is visible, its cost is measurable. Years are not lost all at once. They are lost one delayed decision at a time. You are not being rushed. You are being reminded. Reminded that time is active. Reminded that your role is participatory. Stand up. Standing up is symbolic. It marks the end of passivity. You do not have to sprint. You must stop standing still. Stillness without intention becomes stagnation. Intentional stillness is different. This is not that. This is the moment for movement. Do not drift. Drift feels effortless. It leads nowhere. Direction requires effort. It leads somewhere specific. You choose. This is where urgency peaks. Short lines, clear commands. Do not wait. Do not drift. Stand up. Feel the difference in your body when you decide. Notice how tension shifts into readiness. That readiness has been waiting for permission. You just gave it. Now the work begins to reorganize around action. Not tomorrow, now. This decision does not end the journey. It begins momentum. Momentum changes how the next challenge feels. Challenges no longer feel like threats. They feel like progress markers. You are no longer watching time pass. You are moving with it. That alignment changes everything. Delay had a cost. You have seen it. Now movement offers return. Energy returns. Clarity returns. Self-trust returns. This is not hype. It is cause and effect. Action produces alignment. Alignment produces strength. Strength produces leadership. You are stepping out of delay. That choice echoes forward. The years ahead respond differently to someone who moves. And you are moving now. Chapter 6. Identity is built, not found. There is a quiet relief that comes when you stop searching for who you are supposed to be. Relief arises when you realize identity is not hidden somewhere outside you. It is not waiting to be discovered. It is not unlocked by motivation, mood, or sudden inspiration. Identity is built slowly, built deliberately, built through repeated alignment between what you choose and what you believe. This understanding changes everything. Motivation is unstable. It rises and falls with emotion, energy, and circumstance. Identity remains when motivation fades. When you rely on motivation, progress feels fragile. When you rely on identity, progress feels inevitable. This chapter is not about pushing harder. It is about seeing yourself differently. Because the way you act is always consistent with the way you see yourself. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your identity. If you see yourself as someone who hesitates, hesitation feels natural. If you see yourself as someone who follows through, action feels normal. Nothing external needs to change first. The shift begins internally. This is emotional relief after intensity, not because effort stops, but because resistance fades. You stop fighting yourself. For a long time, you may have tried to motivate your way into change. You waited to feel ready. You waited to feel confident. You waited to feel like the person who could handle more. But readiness does not create identity. Identity creates readiness. You do not become disciplined because you feel disciplined. You feel disciplined because you act like a disciplined person. This is the reversal most people miss. Identity is not a reward at the end of effort. It is the foundation beneath it. Once you understand this, pressure releases. You stop chasing a feeling. You start installing a standard. Standards stabilize behavior. A standard says, this is who I am now, not someday, not after proof, now. This does not require arrogance. It requires clarity. Clarity is calm. You no longer argue with yourself about what to do. You no longer argue with yourself about what to do. You know. The question shifts from, can I do this, to who am I becoming through this action? That question builds identity in real time. Each choice becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. No single vote defines you, but repetition does. Identity is the accumulation of repeated self-agreement. Every time you act in alignment with your chosen identity, trust deepens. Not trust from others, trust within yourself. That trust is stabilizing. You no longer rely on excitement. You rely on alignment. Alignment feels quiet, grounded, certain. This is why identity-based growth feels different. There is less drama, less force, more consistency. You are no longer trying to become someone else. You are becoming more precise about who you already are choosing to be. Visualize your future self, not as a fantasy, as a direction. See the posture, the pace, the presence. Notice how that version of you moves through difficulty. Notice how decisions are made without negotiation. Notice how effort feels expected, not optional. That future self is not distant. It is built one aligned decision at a time. Identity collapses distance. You are not waiting to arrive. You are practicing arrival. This practice removes anxiety. You are no longer rushing toward an image. You are embodying it incrementally. Incrementally by mint builds confidence without noise. Confidence is not loud. It is settled. When identity stabilizes, behavior follows naturally. You stop forcing habits. Habits begin to feel like expressions of who you are. This is relief. Relief from constant self-correction. Relief from internal negotiation. Relief from internal negotiation. Relief from needing permission to act. You already decided who you are becoming. That decision simplifies everything. Simplification is power. Complexity drains energy. Clarity restores it. An identity-based approach to growth removes excess thinking. You no longer debate every action. You ask one question. Does this align with who I am building myself to be? If yes, you act. If not, you adjust. This keeps you present. Presence reinforces identity. Each aligned action strengthens the internal image you hold of yourself. That image becomes familiar, comfortable. Soon, acting out of alignment feels uncomfortable. This is when discipline becomes natural. Discipline is not control. It is coherence. Coherence between belief and behavior. When coherence exists, effort feels purposeful. Resistance fades. You stop sabotaging yourself because sabotage no longer fits your identity. This is the quiet transformation most people miss. They look for dramatic change. They look for intensity. They look for motivation spikes. But the most permanent change feels calm. It feels like settling into yourself. This chapter is a turning point because pressure softens here, not because standards drop, because friction disappears. You are no longer pushing against your own identity. You are reinforcing it. Identity language matters. The way you speak to yourself matters. The labels you use matter. You are not trying, you are becoming. Trying implies uncertainty. Becoming implies uncertainty. Becoming implies direction. Direction reduces doubt. Say it internally, without force, without drama. I rise. That statement is not about elevation above others. It is about alignment with your potential. Rising means refusing to shrink. Rising means choosing behaviors that reflect respect for yourself. Respect stabilizes identity. When you respect yourself, you keep commitments. When you keep commitments, confidence grows. Confidence then feeds identity. This cycle is self-reinforcing. You no longer need external validation. You validate yourself through consistency. Consistency builds credibility. You begin to trust your own word. That trust is powerful. It changes how you approach challenges. You no longer ask if you can handle them. You assume you will figure it out. That assumption is identity speaking. Identity shapes perception. Problems look smaller when identity is strong. Opportunities look clearer. You stop overthinking because your standards guide you. This does not mean life becomes easy. It means effort becomes meaningful. Meaning reduces suffering. You understand why you are doing what you are doing. That understanding quiets internal resistance. This is emotional relief after sustained intensity, not relief from responsibility. Relief from confusion. Confusion drains energy. Clarity restores it. Identity provides clarity. You are no longer chasing outcomes, you are embodying principles. Outcomes follow. This is not wishful thinking. It is structural alignment. Structure determines behavior. When identity is clear, behavior organizes itself around it. You wake up knowing who you are. You move through the day with direction, not urgency. Direction, urgency. Direction stains. Sustains is best, builds mastery. Mastery reinforces identity. This is the upward spiral. You are not climbing out of weakness, you are building strength deliberately. Weakness dissolves when identity strengthens. You stop asking for permission to grow. You stop explaining your standards. You live them. Living standards is leadership. Leadership begins internally. This chapter marks that internal shift. You feel less reactive, less scattered, more centered. Centering is not stagnation, it is readiness. You are preparing without tension. This preparation feels different because it is identity-driven. You are no longer hoping to become someone capable. You are acting as someone capable. That behavior trains your nervous system. Your body adapts to responsibility. Your mind adapts to challenge. What once felt heavy begins to feel familiar. Familiarity breeds confidence. Confidence breeds calm. Calm allows focus. Focus strengthens results. Results reinforce identity. The cycle continues. You are inside it now. You no longer need to search for yourself. You are building yourself, brick by brick, choice by choice. Nothing flashy, everything meaningful. This is sustainable transformation. Sustainable transformation lasts because it is not dependent on mood. It is dependent on decision. Decision has already been made. You feel it in your posture, in your breath, in your attention. You are no longer drifting between versions of yourself. You are consolidating. Consolidation is strength. This is the phase where identity locks in. You act differently because you see yourself differently. That difference will be tested, not to break you, to reinforce you, and you are ready. Say it again quietly, with certainty. I rise. That statement does not rush the future. It stabilizes the present, and from a stable present, the next phase unfolds naturally. Chapter 7. Pressure reveals the leader. Pressure changes things, not because it is cruel, but because it is honest. Pressure does not create character, reveals it. When life presses in, masks fall away, excuses lose strength. What remains is what you have built inside. This is where leadership is exposed, not in comfort, not in ease, not when conditions are favorable and support is abundant. Leadership is revealed when weight is applied. Think of steel. Raw metal has potential, but potential alone is weak. It bends easily. It lacks form. Steel becomes strong through heat and force. Pressure refines it. Resistance shapes it. Without pressure, steel remains unfinished. So do people. You may wish pressure away. You may hope for lighter days. But pressure is not punishment. It is a filter. It separates preparation from performance, intentions from habits, identity from imagination. Under pressure, there is no room for pretending. You either hold steady or you collapse inward. This is not judgment, it is information. Pressure shows you where you are solid and where reinforcement is needed. Weak systems fail under pressure. Strong systems adapt. Leadership is a system. It is built long before pressure arrives. Pressure simply tests what already exists. When pressure rises, many look outward for relief. They wait for conditions to change. They wait for permission. They wait for someone else to lead. Leaders do not wait. They stabilize themselves first. Self-leadership precedes all other forms of leadership. If you cannot lead yourself under pressure, you cannot lead others through it. Pressure demands decisions. Decisions reveal standards. Standards guide behavior when emotion fluctuates. Under pressure, emotion will fluctuate. Fear may appear, doubt may surface. That is expected. Leadership is not emotional absence, it is emotional regulation. Hold steady. Holding steady does not mean suppressing feeling, it means not being controlled by it. Pressure tests this capacity. When stress increases, do you become reactive or responsive? Do you scatter or focus? Do you contract or expand? These responses reveal your liege of capacity. This is why comfort cannot produce leaders. Comfort removes testing. Comfort removes resistance. Comfort removes the need for regulation. Without regulation, there is no leadership muscle. Pressure strengthens that muscle. You feel it now, the weight of responsibility, the demand for clarity. This is not a sign you are failing. It is a sign you are being shaped. Shaping is uncomfortable, but it is purposeful. Pressure compresses time. It forces priority. Under pressure, what matters becomes obvious. Distractions lose appeal. Excuses lose credibility. This clarity is a gift. Pressure removes excess. What remains is essence. Essence is leadership. Leadership is not volume, it is stability. When others react, leaders regulate. When others scatter, leaders focus. This does not require dominance. It requires presence. Presence under pressure builds authority. Authority is felt before it is seen. You feel it when someone remains grounded while everything around them accelerates. You trust it instinctively. That trust begins internally. You must trust yourself under pressure before others will. Self-trust is built through repetition, through facing pressure and not abandoning yourself. Each time you hold steady, confidence consolidates, not confidence in outcome, confidence in process. Process confidence is resilient. Outcomes fluctuate. Processes endure. Leaders commit to process under pressure. They do not chase relief. They maintain standards. Standards are anchors. Anchors prevent drift when waves rise. Pressure brings waves rise. Pressure brings waves. Without anchors, you are tossed. With anchors, you stabilize. Stability allows decision-making. Decision-making is leadership in motion. Under pressure, indecision is costly. But rushed decisions are equally dangerous. Leadership balances urgency with clarity. This balance is trained, not imagined. Pressure is the training ground. Each challenge strengthens calibration. Each responsibility increases capacity. You are not being overwhelmed. You are being expanded. Expansion feels like pressure before it feels like strength. This is where many retreat. They mistake pressure for a signal to stop, but pressure is often a signal to lead. Lead yourself. Leading yourself means choosing response over reaction. It means staying present with discomfort. It means refusing to offload responsibility when weight increases. This is where authority rises. Authority rises internally first. You begin to carry pressure differently, not as a threat, as a responsibility you are capable of holding. Capability grows through exposure. Avoidance weakens capacity. Engagement strengthens it. Pressure demands engagement. Engagement transforms pressure into preparation. Preparation builds readiness. Readiness is leadership potential realized. This is the forging process. Heat, resistance, refinement. Steel does not complain about heat. It transforms through it. Transformation requires tolerance. Tolerance for discomfort. Tolerance for uncertainty. Leaders tolerate what others escape, not because they enjoy pressure, because they understand its purpose. Purpose reframes experience. When pressure has purpose, it becomes manageable. Manageable does not mean easy, it means meaningful. Meaning steadies the nervous system. When meaning is clear, panic fades. This is where calm authority emerges. Calm authority is not passive. It is controlled strength. You speak less. You listen more. You act decisively. Under pressure, noise increases. Opinions multiply. Emotions escalate. Leaders filter. They filter information. They filter emotion. They filter urgency. Filtering requires focus. Focus is a skill sharpened under pressure. Stay focused. Focus does not mean tunnel vision. It means clarity of priority. Pressure clarifies priority. What matters now? What can wait? What must be addressed immediately? This triage is leadership. It is learned through experience. Each pressured moment teaches you something about yourself, where you tense, where you rush, where you hesitate. These observations are valuable. They show you hesitate. These observations are valuable. They show you where leadership is forming and where reinforcement is required. Pressure exposes gaps. Gaps are not failures. They are instructions. You strengthen where gaps appear. Over time, gaps close, pressure feels different, less threatening, more familiar. Familiarity breeds competence, competence breeds confidence, confidence breeds authority. This is the progression. Authority is not granted, it is earned internally before it is recognized externally. External recognition is delayed. Internal alignment comes first. Pressure accelerates this alignment. That is why leadership often emerges unexpectedly. Someone rises in a moment of crisis, not because they planned to, because they were prepared. Preparation is invisible until pressure arrives. You are preparing now. Each time you remain present under pressure, you reinforce leadership identity. You begin to expect more from yourself. Expectations shape behavior. Higher expectations raise standards. Standards guide action under stress. Action under stress reveals leadership. This cycle is active now. Pressure is not leaving, but you are changing how you meet it. Hold steady. Steadiness is not stiffness. It is flexibility, anchored by values. Flexible strength adapts without breaking. This is forged strength. Forged strength does not seek comfort, it respects reality. Reality includes pressure. Pressure includes opportunity. Opportunity to lead, not someday, now. Leadership is situational. Situationals are demanding. Demand reveals readiness. You are ready because you are willing to stay. Stay with pressure. Stay with responsibility. Do not rush relief. Relief comes after regulation. Regulation comes from awareness. Awareness keeps you grounded. Grounded leaders stabilize environments. Stability attracts trust. Trust amplifies influence. Influence defines leadership. This influence begins within. You influence yourself first. You choose composure. You choose clarity. You choose response. These choices define leadership moment by moment. You are no longer surprised by pressure. You expect it. Expectation reduces fear. Fear dissolves when pressure is normalized. Normalized pressure becomes training. Training builds capacity. Capacity builds leadership. This is not theoretical, it is lived. This is not theoretical, it is lived. You are living it now. The weight you feel is not too heavy. It is precisely calibrated to strengthen you. This realization shifts posture. You stop bracing, you start bearing. Bearing weight changes identity. You see yourself as capable of holding responsibility. That belief alters behavior. Behavior reinforces belief. Leadership locks in. This is the rise of authority. Quiet, grounded, unshakable. You do not need to announce it. Pressure announces it for you. Others feel it when you do not panic, when you do not deflect, when you do not collapse inward. You stand. Stand with intention. Stand with clarity. Stand with resolve. Hold steady. This is not the peak. It is the preparation. Pressure is shaping you for what comes next. And what comes next requires someone who can carry weight without breaking. You are becoming that person. Chapter 8. Delayed gratification is power. Most people misunderstand patience. They confuse it with passivity. They mistake waiting for weakness. They assume that immediate action is always strength. That misunderstanding costs them everything. Delayed gratification is not hesitation. It is strategy. It is the ability to pause without quitting, to wait without drifting, to hold vision without demanding instant reward. This ability separates those who last from those who burn out. The world trained you to want everything now. Fast results, quick recognition, immediate relief. But speed without direction creates chaos, and gratification without discipline creates dependency. Power is built by those who can wait. Waiting, when done intentionally, sharpens focus. It strengthens resolve. It filters impulse from intention. Impulse wants comfort. Intention wants outcome. Delayed gratification teaches you to choose outcome over comfort. This is not about denial. It is about alignment. You delay what feels good now for what matters later. That choice builds inner authority. Inner authority is calm. It does not rush. It does not panic. It knows where it is going. This calm is not weakness. It is control. Control over attention, control over desire, control over reaction. When you control these, you control direction. Direction defines destiny. People who cannot wait are controlled by the present moment. They react to discomfort. They chase relief. They escape boredom. They trade future strength for present ease. That trade always costs more than it gives. Those who can wait build leverage. Leverage comes from restraint. Restraint is not suppression, it is choice. You feel desire rise. You acknowledge it. You do not obey it automatically. This pause is power. In that pause, identity speaks. Identity asks, who are you becoming through this choice? Delayed gratification is an identity practice. You act like someone who trusts the future you are building. Trust changes behavior. When you trust your future self, you stop sabotaging it. Sabotage feels urgent. Discipline feels patient. Patience allows compound growth. Compound growth is invisible at first, slow, unimpressive. That is why most people abandon it. They want evidence before commitment. But commitment must come first. Delayed gratification teaches you to commit without applause. You work without immediate reward. You show up without instant validation. You persist without visible progress. This builds psychological strength. You become comfortable with quiet progress. Quiet progress lasts. Noise fades. Attention shifts. But progress compounds. This is long-term vision. You stop asking, what do I get today? You start asking, who am I becoming over time? Time becomes an ally instead of an enemy. Most people fear time because they waste it. When you invest time intentionally, fear dissolves. Time rewards discipline. Discipline is choosing long-term benefit over short-term relief. That choice strengthens emotional regulation. You stop reacting to every urge. You stop obeying every impulse. You gain space between feeling and action. That space is leadership. Leaders do not react impulsively. They assess, they wait, they decide deliberately. Delayed gratification trains this capacity daily. You begin to notice how often comfort tempts you to break alignment. Small temptations, harmless-looking shortcuts, justifications that sound reasonable. Discipline does not argue with temptation. It ignores it. Ignoring temptation becomes easier with practice. Practice builds tolerance. Tolerance builds strength. Strength builds confidence. Confidence stabilizes identity. This is psychological reinforcement in motion. Every time you delay gratification, you reinforce the belief that you are in control. That belief changes posture. It changes tone. It changes decision-making. You no longer chase, you attract. Attraction comes from stability. Stability comes from discipline. Discipline comes from repeated restraint. This cycle compounds quietly. Others may not notice immediately, but you feel it. You feel calmer, more grounded, less reactive. Your nervous system adapts. Delayed gratification reduces anxiety because you stop needing immediate resolution. You can sit with uncertainty. You can hold tension without release. That capacity is rare. Rarity creates advantage. Most people break under delay. They rush decisions. They abandon plans. They seek distraction. You do not. You wait with intention. Waiting with intention. Waiting with intention. Waiting with intention is not idle. It is active patience. You prepare. You observe. You refine. You let time work for you. This requires inner calm. Inner calm is not absence of desire. It is mastery over it. Desire becomes information, not command. You notice wanting without acting automatically. That awareness creates freedom. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is choosing what aligns. Alignment sustains effort. Sustained effort builds results that last. Short-term gratification produces spikes. Long-term discipline produces structures. Structures support growth. This is why delayed gratification feels powerful over time. You begin to trust your process. Trust reduces anxiety. Anxiety comes from uncertainty. Uncertainty fades when direction is clear. Delayed gratification clarifies direction. You stop zigzagging. You stop second-guessing. You commit to a path and allow time to shape results. This patience sharpens focus. Focus deepens effort. Deep effort produces mastery. Mastery changes how you are treated. People sense discipline. They sense restraint. They sense reliability. Reliability builds credibility. Credibility builds influence. Influence is leadership. Leadership grows quietly through discipline. Delayed gratification is not glamorous. It is not exciting. It is effective. You begin to see beyond immediate outcomes. You think in seasons, in phases, in years. This perspective stabilizes emotion. When setbacks occur, you do not panic. You understand variance. Variance is part of long-term progress. Short-term thinkers quit at variance. Long-term thinkers adjust. Adjustment requires patience. Patience requires discipline. Discipline requires identity alignment. You see how this reinforces itself. Each delayed gratification strengthens the next. You build tolerance for discomfort. Discomfort stops frightening you. Fear loses leverage. Leverage shifts to you. This is controlled intensity, not passive calm, focused calm. You are intense about direction, calm about timing. That combination is powerful. Intensity without patience burns out. Patience without intensity stagnates. Together they create momentum. Momentum built on discipline is stable. Stable momentum compounds. This is why waiting is winning. Not waiting to avoid action. Waiting to time action correctly. Timing matters. Those who rush act before foundations are ready. Foundations built slowly hold weight. Weight comes later. Pressure comes later. Delayed gratification prepares you for both. You are not wasting time by waiting. You are investing time by preparing. Preparation without discipline collapses. Discipline without urgency stagnates. You balance both. You move deliberately. You feel urgency without panic. You feel patience without complacency. This balance is rare. Rarity creates power, comes from control. Control comes from discipline. Discipline comes from identity. You're becoming someone who chooses alignment over impulse. That identity changes how temptation feels. Temptation loses urgency. You see it for what it is, a momentary distraction from long-term intention. You no longer negotiate with it. You let it pass. Passing strengthens you. Each pass builds evidence. Evidence builds confidence. Confidence builds calm. Calm builds clarity. Clarity builds commitment. Commitment builds results. Results reinforce identity. The cycle tightens. Delayed gratification strengthens your internal hierarchy. Values rise above urges. Purpose rises above pleasure. This hierarchy directs behavior automatically. You do not force discipline, you express it. Expression feels natural. Natural discipline is sustainable. This sustainability is why you last. Others sprint. You pace. Others chase. You build. Others react. You decide. This difference compounds over time. Years reward discipline. Years punish impulse. Time is neutral. Your behavior determines outcome. Delayed gratification aligns behavior with long-term reward. You begin to see the future as tangible, not abstract, not distant. You feel connected to it. That connection makes sacrifice meaningful. Sacrifice without meaning breeds resentment. Sacrifice with purpose breeds strength. Strength stabilizes identity. You're no longer tempted by shortcuts. Shortcuts undermine structure. Structure supports scale. Scale requires patience. Everything significant takes time. Those who accept this gain advantage. You accept it now. Acceptance removes frustration. Frustration comes from resisting reality. Reality includes time. Time includes waiting. Waiting, when aligned, is power. You stop rushing outcomes. You focus on process. Process produces outcome. This understanding settles you. Inner calm emerges, not passive calm, active calm. You are moving, but not frantic. You are building, but not desperate. Desperation signals scarcity. Discipline signals abundance. Abundance mindset grows when you trust the process. Trust grows through repetition. Repetition requires patience. Patience requires discipline. Discipline requires choice. Choice is always available. Each moment offers it, immediate comfort or long-term strength. You choose long-term strength. You choose long-term strength. Say it internally. I choose discipline. That choice echoes. It echoes through habits, through decisions, through identity. You feel more grounded after saying it. Grounding stabilizes momentum. Momentum accelerates quietly. Quiet acceleration is powerful. Others do not see it coming. You do. You feel it building. Not excitement, confidence. Confidence that comes from consistency. Consistency is delayed gratification practiced daily. You are not missing out by waiting. You are positioning yourself to receive more later. More stability, more influence, more control. This is strategic patience. Strategic patience wins. Winning is not loud, it is sustained. You are playing the long game now. The long game rewards discipline, and discipline is becoming natural to you. This chapter settles something important. You no longer rush yourself. You no longer panic about timing. You move with intention. That intention carries you forward. The next phase will test this patience, not to break it, to strengthen it. And you are ready. Chapter 9. You are not who you were. There is a moment in growth that does not feel like progress. It feels like loss. Not loss of ability, but loss of familiarity. The familiar habits, the familiar reactions, the familiar rations, the familiar version of you that once felt safe to return to. That version carried you for a long time. It helped you survive uncertainty. It helped you manage fear. It helped you navigate when clarity was limited. But survival is not the same as growth. Growth requires release. This is the moment where you stop dragging old weight into new territory, where you recognize that becoming requires letting go. Not with anger, not with regret, with respect and finality. You are not who you were. That truth can feel unsettling at first, because identity change always includes separation. You are stepping out of old patterns, old reflexes, old justifications that once made sense. They made sense then. They do not now. This is not rejection of your past, it is completion. Completion brings emotional closure. Closure does not erase memory, it changes relationship. You no longer define yourself by who you had to be. You define yourself by who you are choosing to become. That choice draws a line. On one side is the old self, on the other is the emerging identity. You can see both clearly now. The old self avoided discomfort when possible. The old self delayed discomfort when possible. The old self delayed decisions to preserve safety. The old self negotiated with fear. That version did its job. But the environment has changed. The demands have increased. Your capacity has expanded. What once protected you now restricts you. This is how growth works. Old strategies expire. Holding onto them past their usefulness creates friction. Friction feels like tension. Tension feels like confusion. Release resolves both. Release is not dramatic, it is decisive. You stop revisiting old stories. You stop replaying old explanations. You stop justifying old limits. You acknowledge them. Then you move on. Revoir courage. Not the loud kind, the quiet kind that does not need approval. You feel it now, the sense that something has ended, not because you failed, but because you outgrew it. Outgrowing is natural. Children outgrow shoes. Adults outgrow roles. Your outgrowing is natural. Children outgrow shoes. Adults outgrow roles. You are outgrowing identities. This creates emotional weight. Weight comes from attachment. Attachment is understandable. What is familiar feels safe. But safety without growth becomes stagnation. You already recognize that. This chapter is where recognition becomes action. Symbolic letting go does not require ceremony. It requires intention. You decide what no longer comes with you. Old reactions, old self-doubt, old habits of hesitation. They served a version of you that no longer exists. You can honor them without carrying them forward. This is maturity. Maturity allows closure without resentment. You are not angry at who you were. You are grateful. But gratitude does not mean permanence. You release because you respect growth. This release feels like space opening inside you. Space is necessary for expansion. Without release, Growth crowns itself. You cannot add new strength on top of old limitations. You must clear room. This is that clearing. You may notice moments of emotional quiet, a stillness that feels unfamiliar. That stillness is not emptiness, it is readiness. Readiness follows closure. You are closing a chapter internally, not with bitterness, with certainty. Certainty comes from alignment. You are aligned with who you are becoming. Alignment dissolves confusion. Confusion belonged to the old self. Clarity belongs to the emerging one. You feel the difference in how decisions land. Less debate, less negotiation. More resolve. Resolve does not shout, it stands. Standing creates separation. You no longer blend old habits into new goals. You choose consistency. Consistency demands release. Every time you choose a new standard, you release an old one. This is identity reinforcement. Identity is reinforcement. Identity is reinforced not by words, but by exclusions. What you no longer tolerate defines you as much as what you pursue. You stop tolerating delay. You stop tolerating distraction. You stop tolerating self-betrayal disguised as comfort. These boundaries draw shape around your identity. Shape creates strength. Strength requires edges. Without edges, identity blurs. Blur creates regression. This is why release matters. Regression happens when old identities remain accessible. You are closing that access now, not through force, through decision. Decision is clean. You decide that the old self does not drive anymore. That voice may still speak, but it no longer leads. Leadership has transferred. This transfer is subtle but permanent. You feel it when old urges arise and you do not follow. When old doubts appear and you do not negotiate, you acknowledge them. Then you step forward. This is the separation, not rejection. Replacement. The emerging identity takes the lead. This identity expects effort, accepts discomfort, values integrity. It does not romanticize struggle, it respects discipline. You are reinforcing this identity through action. Each aligned choice confirms the separation. Over time, the old self fades, not erased, integrated. Integrated means its lessons remain without its limitations. This integration creates emotional closure. You are no longer arguing with yourself. That internal argument belonged to transition. Transition is ending. Stability is forming. Stability feels calm. Calm after intensity is powerful. You have moved through pressure, through delay, through identity installation. Now you are consolidating. Consolidation requires release. You do not need to keep proving you have changed. You are changing because you are acting differently. That action speaks. Words are no longer necessary. You carry yourself differently now. Your posture reflects decision. Your pace reflects clarity. Clarity is firm. Firm does not mean rigid. It means settled. Settled identity does not waver when tested. Tests will come. They always do. But tests do not threaten identity. They strengthen it. Because you are no longer uncertain about who you are becoming. Uncertainty belonged to the old phase. This is a new phase. The old self may attempt to return in moments of fatigue, in moments of doubt, in moments of stress. But it no longer feels convincing. Its arguments feel outdated. You have evolved past them. This evolution did not happen by accident. It happened through deliberate choice. Creates identity. Identity creates behavior. Behavior creates evidence. Evidence creates confidence. Confidence seals separation. You are sealed now, not closed off. Closed out. Closed out from regression. This is the emotional closure you feel, not dramatic release. Grounded certainty. Certainty that you will not return to who you were, not because you hate that version, because you respect the one you are becoming. Respect is stronger than resistance. Resistance requires energy. Respect requires alignment. Alignment is effortless. This is why growth feels lighter now. You are no longer carrying conflicting identities. You are singular. Singular focus increases effectiveness. Effectiveness reinforces leadership. Leadership requires clarity of self. You have it. Now comes the transformation peak, the moment where separation becomes action, short lines, firm certainty. Leave it behind. Leave behind the hesitation. Leave behind the delay. Leave behind the version of you that waited for permission. Leave it behind. Step forward into responsibility. Step forward into responsibility. Step forward into alignment. Step forward. This is not symbolic. It is practical. Your next decision reflects it. Your next action confirms it. There is no need to look back. Looking back slows momentum. Momentum belongs to the future you are building. You have closed the door, not angrily, decisively. That decision echoes. It echoes through habits, through priorities, through self-respect. You are not who you were. That statement is not rejection. It is recognition. Recognition stabilizes identity. Stability increases confidence. Confidence supports leadership. Leadership expands influence. Influence carries responsibility. Responsibility is welcome now. You are no longer avoiding it. Avoidance belonged to the old self. Ownership belongs to you now. You feel the difference. Less noise, more clarity, less explanation, more action. This is not the end. It is consolidation before expansion. The next phase will demand even more. But you are not entering it carrying old weight. You released it. That release created capacity. Capacity allows growth. Growth now accelerates because you are no longer split. You are whole and you are moving forward. Chapter 10. Finish. What others abandon, most people start strong. Energy is easy at the beginning. Excitement carries momentum. Hope feels natural. Starting feels good. Finishing feels different. Finishing requires something most people never train. Endurance without applause. Commitment after novelty fades. Discipline when motivation disappears. This is where separation happens. The world is full of starters. Ideas started. Plans started. Goals announced and abandoned quietly. Few see things through, not because they lack talent, not because they lack opportunity, because they leave when it becomes uncomfortable. Finishers do not. Finishers stay when progress slows. They stay when results delay. They stay when doubt grows louder than belief. This staying is power. Finishing is not about intensity. It is about loyalty to the process. The early phase rewards enthusiasm. The middle phase tests discipline. The final phase demands identity. Most people leave in the middle. The middle is quiet. No excitement. No validation. Just repetition. Repetition reveals character. Character determines outcomes. Finishers dominate outcomes because they see what others never reach. Completion compounds. Each finished task strengthens confidence. Each completed goal builds credibility with yourself. That credibility matters more than external praise. When you finish, you prove something internally. You prove that you can be trusted. Trust changes how you approach challenges. You no longer ask if you will quit. You ask how you will adapt. Adaptation is leadership. Abandonment is common because discomfort is misunderstood. Discomfort in the middle feels like failure. It is not. It is confirmation that you have moved beyond novelty. Novelty is shallow motivation. Discipline is deep motivation. Discipline is sprint activates when excitement ends. Most people misread that moment. They think something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. The work has begun. This is where finishers separate themselves. They understand that progress is uneven. That clarity fades before it returns stronger. That effort feels heavier before it feels natural again. They stay anyway. Stay. Staying does not mean forcing blindly. It means remaining engaged, adjusting strategy without abandoning commitment. Abandonment resets identity. Each time you quit, you train quitting. Training matters. Your nervous system learns what you repeat. If you repeat quitting, hesitation becomes default. If you repeat finishing, endurance becomes natural. Natural endurance is rare. Rarity creates dominance. Finishers dominate outcomes because they operate where others disappear. They occupy the empty field beyond abandonment. That field is quiet, uncontested. Few competitors remain there. This is why completion multiplies impact. You are not competing with many at the finish line. Most have left. This is not arrogance. It is observation. Finishers do not rely on talent alone. They rely on continuity. Continuity builds momentum. Momentum sustained over time creates disproportionate results. This is why finishing matters more than starting. Starting creates possibility. Finishing creates reality. Reality carries weight. Weight builds authority. Authority attracts opportunity. Opportunity rewards those who can carry responsibility. Responsibility belongs to finishers. This is where self-belief solidifies. Not belief born of affirmation, belief born of evidence. Evidence comes from completion. Each finished effort says, "I stayed." That message accumulates. You stop doubting your resilience. You stop underestimating your capacity. Capacity expands with use. Unused capacity fades. Finishers use capacity fully. They stretch it. They test it. Testing builds strength. Strength builds confidence. Confidence allows calm under pressure. Calm under pressure is leadership. This chapter installs a simple truth. Finishing is a decision made repeatedly, not once, every day. You finish by returning when it would be easier to leave. You finish by staying focused when distraction invites escape. You finish by honoring commitments long after excitement expires. Finishing reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries. You see yourself as someone who completes. Completion becomes your standard. Standards guide behavior automatically. When your standard is finishing, quitting feels unnatural. Unnatural actions are resisted internally. This resistance protects momentum. Momentum protects progress. Progress reinforces identity. The cycle strengthens. Most people abandon because they expect constant reinforcement. Finishers reinforce themselves. They do not wait for encouragement. They generate it through action. Action produces feedback. Feedback fuels adjustment. Adjustment enables continuation. Continuation leads to completion. This is practical leadership. Leadership is not inspiring others with words. It is demonstrating endurance through action. Others watch finishers differently. They trust them. They rely on them. Reliability elevates influence. Influence multiplies impact. Impact defines leadership. Finishers dominate outcomes because systems reward reliability. Systems do not reward intention. They reward execution. Execution ends with completion. You are not meant to rush finishing. You are meant to persist through it. Persistence is quiet power. Quiet power outlasts loud ambition. Ambition starts, discipline finishes. Staying feels uncomfortable when progress slows. That discomfort is temporary. The reward for staying is clarity returning stronger. Clarity feels earned when you reach it through effort. Earned clarity changes behavior permanently. You no longer chase shortcuts. Shortcuts undermine finishing. You respect the process because it works. This respect deepens discipline. Discipline sustains finishing. This is self-belief installed through experience, not hope, not hype. Proof. You have proof now. Proof that you can continue when it would be easier to stop. Proof that your commitment is not dependent on mood. Proof that you are capable of sustained effort. That proof changes posture. You stand differently. You decide differently. You decide differently. Decisions made from completion identity are stronger. They are final. Finishers do not constantly reconsider commitment. They reconsider method, not mission. Mission remains. Mission anchors effort. Anchored effort withstands pressure. Pressure reveals finishing capacity. Finishers do not collapse under pressure. They adapt. Adaptation keeps momentum alive. Momentum carries you through resistance. Resistance decreases as identity stabilizes. This is why finishing feels easier over time, not because tasks shrink, because you expand. Expansion reduces perceived difficulty. What once felt overwhelming becomes manageable. Manageable becomes routine. Routine becomes mastery. Mastery attracts responsibility. Responsibility defines leadership. This is not accidental, it is structural. Finishers dominate outcomes because they operate at the structural level. They build foundations. Foundations support scale. Scale amplifies results. Amplified results look effortless from the outside. They are not. They are the product of finishing repeatedly. This chapter asks for a simple commitment, not dramatic, not public, internal. Finish what you start. Finish the conversation. Finish the habit. Finish the process. Each finish strengthens the next. Momentum builds quietly. Quiet momentum is dangerous to competitors. They do not see it until it passes them. You do not need to explain your focus. You need to maintain it. Stay. Staying when others leave is the advantage. That advantage compounds. Compounding advantages dominate outcomes. You are not chasing many things now. You are finishing one thing at a time. One thing completed is more powerful than 10 things abandoned. Completion sharpens identity. Identity drives behavior. Behavior produces results. Results reinforce belief. Belief stabilizes effort. The cycle tightens. You feel it now. Less urge to quit, more tolerance for discomfort. This tolerance is strength. Strength attracts challenge. Challenge invites growth. Growth rewards finishers. You are becoming one. Finish, not later, not when it feels easy. Finish because it matters. Finish because it defines you. Finish because it defines you. Finish because staying changes outcomes. Stay. This is where dominance forms, not through aggression, through completion. Completion is rare. Rarity is power. You are claiming it now. Chapter 11. Discipline becomes destiny. There is a point where effort stops feeling temporary, where discipline is no longer something you apply, it becomes something you live. This is that point. You are no longer experimenting. You are no longer experimenting. You are no longer testing possibilities. You are repeating. And repetition is destiny in motion. What you repeat shapes your days. Your days shape your identity. Your identity shapes your future. This is not theory, it is structure. Discipline does not change outcomes overnight. It changes trajectories permanently. A single disciplined action feels small. Repeated discipline becomes unavoidable. Unavoidable results follow unavoidable patterns. You have been building patterns quietly, consistently. Now they are beginning to solidify. This is where destiny locks in. Not because something dramatic happens, but because something becomes stable. Stability is power. Instability creates hesitation. Stability creates momentum. Momentum does not require constant motivation. It feeds itself. This is the stage where calm authority replaces intensity. Intensity was necessary to break old cycles. Calm authority is necessary to sustain new ones. You feel calmer now, not because the work is lighter, because the resistance is gone. Discipline no longer feels like restriction. It feels like alignment. Alignment removes friction. When behavior matches identity, effort flows. You wake up knowing what is expected of you, not externally, internally. Internal expectation is the strongest form of discipline. External pressure can be escaped. Internal standards cannot. You are living by standards now. Standards do not negotiate. They guide. Guidance simplifies decision-making. You no longer debate every action. You act according to who you are becoming. Repetition reinforces this identity. Each time you show up, when it would be easier not to, you deepen alignment. Each time you follow through without recognition, identity consolidates. Consolidation is destiny forming. Destiny is not a single event. It is the accumulation of repeated behavior. People misunderstand destiny. They imagine fate. They imagine chance. Destiny is discipline practiced daily. Daily practice creates inevitability. Inevitability feels calm. There is no rush here, no panic, no urgency fueled by fear. There is certainty fueled by consistency. Consistency outlasts talent. Consistency outlasts motivation. Consistency outlasts circumstance. This is why discipline becomes destiny. Because discipline remains when everything else fluctuates. Habits are discipline made automatic. Automatic behavior shapes life. You are now reinforcing habits deliberately, not random routines. Intentional patterns aligned with your standards. Habit reinforcement is quiet. No applause, no celebration, just repetition. Repetition builds trust. Trust builds confidence. Confidence builds calm. Calm allows precision. Precision improves result. Results reinforce belief. Belief stabilizes identity. Identity locks in behavior. The loop is complete. This is near final integration. You are no longer assembling yourself. You are stabilizing yourself. Stabilization feels different from growth. Growth feels like stretching. Stabilization feels like grounding. Both are necessary. You have stretched enough to become something new. Now you are grounding enough to make it permanent. Permanent change is quiet. It does not announce itself. It simply persists. This persistence shapes the future without effort. The future begins to resemble your habits. Your habits are disciplined, so your future becomes disciplined. Discipline determines pace. Pace determines longevity. Longevity determines impact. Impact defines legacy. Legacy begins with repetition. Repetition begins with choice. Choice is now automatic for you. That is the shift. You no longer rely on willpower, you rely on structure. Structure removes decision fatigue. Decision fatigue weakens discipline. Structure preserves it. Your structure is internal now. You do not need reminders. You do not need pressure. You move according to internal alignment. This is calm authority. Authority without volume. Authority without force. Others may not notice immediately, but systems respond. Life responds to consistency. Opportunities align with reliability. Responsibility flows toward those who can sustain effort. You are becoming that person. Becoming is no longer in progress. It is nearly complete. What remains is reinforcement. Reinforcement is repetition with awareness. You notice your habits now. You protect them. You guard consistency. You understand that discipline is fragile, early and powerful later. You are in the powerful stage. At this stage, discipline feels natural. Skipping feels strange. Avoidance feels uncomfortable. That reversal is identity integration. Your nervous system has adapted. Adaptation changes perception. What once felt hard feels normal. What once felt optional feels required. Required by who you are. This requirement is not harsh. It is respectful. You respect yourself enough to keep commitments. Self-respect stabilizes behavior. Behavior stabilizes outcomes. Outcomes stabilize confidence. Confidence stabilizes presence. Presence stabilizes leadership. Leadership is now embedded, not as a role, as a way of being. This is destiny forming through discipline. You are no longer surprised by your own consistency. Consistency is expected. Expectation eliminates doubt. Doubt once slowed you. Now clarity leads you. Clarity is peaceful. Peace does not mean absence of challenge. It means absence of internal conflict. You are no longer divided. Division drains energy. Unity restores it. Unity between intention and action. That unity is discipline, embodied. Embodied discipline does not need enforcement. It is self-sustaining. This is why repeated discipline locks in a future. Because repetition becomes identity. Identity becomes default. Default behavior shapes life. Life follows pattern. Pattern follows repetition. You are no longer guessing who you will become. You are watching it happen. Predictability emerges, not boring predictability. Reliable predictability. You can trust your future actions. That trust is freeing. Freedom comes from self-trust. Self-trust comes from repetition. Repetition comes from discipline. The chain is complete. You feel less reactive, less distracted, more composed. Composure is strength. Strength that does not need to prove itself. You are no longer chasing confidence. Confidence follows you because you show up consistently. Consistency builds reputation. Reputation begins internally. You know who you are now. Knowing stabilizes behavior. Behavior reinforces knowing. This mutual reinforcement is destiny settling in. You are no longer flexible about your standards. You are flexible about your standards. You are flexible about method. This is maturity. Mature discipline adapts without abandoning direction. Direction remains fixed. Direction is identity-driven. Identity no longer wavers. This is near final integration. You may still refine details. You may still improve methods, but the core is set. The core does not shift. The core is discipline. Discipline becomes destiny because it eliminates randomness. Randomness creates chaos. Chaos creates inconsistency. Inconsistency prevents mastery. Mastery requires repetition. Repetition requires discipline. Discipline produces destiny. You are not waiting for luck. You are building inevitability. Inevitability is calm. You do not rush outcomes. You trust process. Trust is earned through repetition. You earned it. That earning changes posture. You stand differently now. You move with intention. Intention without tension. This is the quiet confidence of someone who knows they will continue. Continuation is the advantage. Most people stop. You do not. That alone changes the future. Future versions of you are already benefiting. They inherit discipline. They inherit structure. They inherit structure. They inherit calm authority. That inheritance compounds. Years respond to consistency. Time multiplies what you repeat. You are repeating discipline. Say time multiplies strength. This is destiny unfolding. Not suddenly, not dramatically. Steadily. Steady progress is unstoppable. There is nothing fragile here anymore. Fragility belonged to early change. This is durability. Durable habits. Durable identity. Durable direction. Durability outlasts adversity. Adversity no longer threatens you. It tests, and reinforcement strengthens destiny. This is why discipline is not limiting. It is liberating. Liberation from indecision. Liberation from indecision. Liberation from indecision. Liberation from self-doubt. Self-doubt fades when evidence accumulates. You have evidence. You have shown up. You have stayed. You have finished. These actions echo forward. They shape opportunities. Opportunities seek stability. Stability is rare. Rare attracts reward. Reward is not immediate. It is cumulative. You are patient enough to receive cumulative reward. Patience was trained. Training is discipline. Discipline is destiny. This understanding settles deeply now. You do not need to repeat it aloud. You feel it shows in your behavior. Behavior, it shows in your behavior. Behavior, it shows in your behavior. Others may begin to notice a change, not excitement. Reliability. Reliability is respected. Respect creates influence. Influence expands responsibility. Responsibility shapes impact. Impact defines contribution. Contribution gives meaning, sustains effort. Effort reinforces discipline. The cycle is complete and self-sustaining. This is near the end of transformation, not because growth stops, because identity stabilizes. From here, you build on a solid foundation. You are no longer becoming disciplined, you are disciplined. That statement does not inflate ego. It clarifies reality. Clarity reduces anxiety. Anxiety fades when behavior is predictable. You can predict yourself now. That predictability is strength. You are dependable. Dependable people shape outcomes. Outcomes shape environments. Environments respond to discipline. This is destiny taking form, not in grand gestures, in daily repetition. Daily repetition defines who you become. You are living proof. Say it internally. Let it settle without force. I am becoming the person who wins. Winning here is not competition. It is alignment with potential. Alignment produces peace. Peace supports focus. Focus drives results. Results reinforce belief. Belief stabilizes discipline. Discipline shapes destiny. You are there now. The next phase will not ask who you are. It will demand what you can carry. And you are ready. Chapter 12. You no longer avoid the truth. There is a stillness here now, not emptiness, completion. You have walked far enough that avoidance no longer follows you. It cannot. There is nowhere left for it to hide. Truth stands in front of you, clear, direct, and for the first time it does not feel threatening. You are no longer negotiating with it. You are no longer circling it. You are no longer stepping around it. You stand with it. This is the final shift, not because effort ends, but because fear does. Fear once distorted truth. It made truth feel heavy, overwhelming, dangerous. Now truth feels grounding. Grounding because you have become strong enough to hold it. Strength changes relationship. What once intimidated now informs. What once pressured now clarifies. Truth has not changed. You have. You spent time building discipline. You learned to wait. You learned to stay. You learned to finish. You learned to lead yourself. All of that preparation brought you here. Here is where truth becomes an asset. You no longer fear seeing clearly. You prefer it. Clarity feels powerful when you are prepared. Prepared people do not avoid reality. They use it. You now see your strengths without exaggeration, your limits without denial, your direction without delusion. This honesty is calm. Calm honesty does not attack. It assesses. Assessment is leadership. Leadership begins when you stop lying to yourself in sappy ways. Small lies once protected you from discomfort. Now they would only slow you down. You no longer need them. You have learned that truth does not weaken you. Avoidance did. Avoidance did. Avoidance drained energy. Truth concentrates it. When you stop avoiding truth, energy organizes itself. Focus sharpens. Decisions simplify. This is clarity embodied. You feel it in your posture, in your breath, in your pace. You are not rushed. You are ready. Readiness does not shout. It stands. You have crossed the threshold where insight becomes identity. You are no longer learning these principles. You are living them. Living truth changes how pressure feels. Pressure no longer confuses you. It refines you. Challenges no longer threaten identity. They activate it. This is leadership integration. Leadership is not something you turn on. It is something you become. You have become it by staying present long enough for truth to settle. Truth settles when resistance ends. Resistance ends when confidence is earned. You earned confidence through discipline. That confidence now carries authority. Authority without arrogance, strength without noise. Others may feel it before they understand it. You do not need to announce anything. Truth announces itself through behavior. You act decisively. You speak precisely. You move deliberately. This is command. Command does not require aggression. It requires clarity. Clarity is your natural state now. You see situations without distortion. You see people without projection. You see yourself without illusion. This level of honesty is rare. Rarity creates influence. Influence carries responsibility. You are no longer avoiding responsibility. You are carrying it. Carrying responsibility feels different when identity is aligned. It no longer feels heavy. It feels appropriate. Appropriate weight builds strength. This is why truth no longer feels like a burden. It feels like structure. Structure supports movement. You move forward without friction because you are no longer fighting reality. Fighting reality exhausted you. Acceptance empowers you. Acceptance implies resignation. It is recognition. Recognition allows strategy. You cannot strategize around illusions. Truth is the only stable surface to build on. You are building on it now. This chapter is not an ending. It is a ceiling of identity. You are no longer tempted to look away when clarity demands action. Action feels natural now. The gap between knowing and doing has closed. That gap once created anxiety. Now it creates momentum. Momentum is calm when it is aligned. You feel a quiet confidence that does not require reinforcement. You know who you are. Knowing who you are changes everything. You stop asking if you belong in pressure. You stop wondering if you are capable. Those questions belonged to an earlier version of you. You release that version. This version stands firm. Firmness is not rigidity. It is grounded flexibility. You adapt without losing direction. Direction is clear because truth guides it. Truth removes distraction. Distraction was the tool of avoidance. Avoidance no longer has influence here. You recognize it immediately when it appears, and you dismiss it, not angrily, calmly. Calm dismissal is mastery. Mastery is not perfection, it is regulation. You regulate emotion. You regulate attention. You regulate response. This regulation allows leadership to function under any condition. You do not require ideal circumstances. Truth allows you to operate within reality as it is. This is power. Power without illusion. Illusion promised comfort, but delivered stagnation. Truth delivers growth. Growth feels demanding at first. Now it feels familiar. Familiarity reduces fear. Fear no longer distorts your decisions. You still feel emotion, but emotion does not lead. You lead. This is the final transformation, not becoming fearless, becoming grounded. Grounded people do not need to escape. They face. Facing does not drain you anymore. It energizes you, because you are no longer spitting energy between truth and avoidance. All energy moves forward. Forward feels inevitable now. You are not pushing yourself. You are expressing yourself. Expression is effortless when identity is aligned. This alignment feels like relief. Not relief from effort. Relief from resistance. Resistance was heavy. Truth is clean. Clean does not mean easy. It means clear. Clear conditions allow decisive action. Decisive action builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence reinforces leadership. Leadership now feels natural. You are no longer rehearsing strength, you are living it. This is embodiment. Embodiment means behavior matches belief. Belief matches identity. Identity matches action. This congruence creates integrity. Integrity is unshakable. You cannot be manipulated when you are internally aligned. You cannot be distracted when you are internally clear. You cannot be delayed when you are internally decisive. This is command over self. Command over self is the highest authority. External authority follows internal authority. Others may begin to defer to you, not because you demand it, because you carry clarity. Clarity calms environments. Calm environments invite trust. Trust amplifies influence. Influence expands responsibility. Responsibility grows impact. Impact creates legacy. Legacy begins here, not in recognition, in alignment. You are aligned now. There is nothing to prove. Proving was driven by doubt. Doubt is gone, not eliminated by force, replaced by evidence. Evidence of consistency. Evidence of consistency. Evidence of completion. This evidence lives inside you. You do not need reminders. You do not need reinforcement. You are self-sustaining now. This is the point of no return. You cannot unknow what you now embody. You cannot return to avoidance without discomfort. Discomfort is now a signal, not a threat. Signals guide you. You listen. Listening to truth has become instinct. Instinctive clarity is leadership at its highest level. You see what is required. You act accordingly. No drama, no delay. This is the final escalation. Not explosive. Focused. You are fully present. Long pause. Everything slows here, not because momentum stops, because control is complete. You feel grounded. This grounding supports what comes next. The world will test this clarity, not to break it, to use it. You are no longer avoiding truth, you are commanding it. Command does not mean domination. It means direction. You direct yourself with precision. That precision shapes outcomes. Outcomes reinforce authority. Authority feels natural now. This is the final transformation peak. Short commands, maximum intensity. Not loud, absolute. Stand up. Standing up is not physical. It is internal alignment. You stand in your standards. You stand in your clarity. Stand up. Focus. Focus is no longer forced. It is natural consequence of alignment. Distraction cannot compete with purpose. Focus. You rise now. Rising is not upward comparison. It is forward movement. You rise into responsibility. You rise into leadership. You rise into consistency. You rise now. This is not a future promise. It is a present reality. You are not waiting to become strong. You are strong. You are not practicing leadership. You are leading. You are not searching for clarity. You embody it. This chapter seals that truth. You will carry it forward, not as a memory, as a way of being. From here, life does not get easier. It gets clearer. Clear paths are easier to walk. You know where you are going. You know who you are. You no longer avoid the truth. You command it. Final conclusion. There is nothing left to prove. You did not arrive here by chance. You faced what most avoid. You chose clarity when comfort was easier. You stayed when leaving felt safer. This journey was not about motivation. It was about alignment. You learned to see clearly, to wait deliberately, to finish consistently, to stand steady under pressure. Through discipline, identity settled. Through repetition, confidence formed. Through truth, leadership emerged. You are no longer becoming. You are. You act with intention. You decide with calm authority. You move forward without hesitation. Doubt once slowed you. Now it has no ground to stand on. Evidence replaced uncertainty. Consistency replaced fear. You know who you are. You trust how you act. You respect the standards you live by. This does not end effort. It ends confusion. From here, life responds differently. Time works with you. Pressure refines instead of rattles. Truth guides instead of threatens. You do not need permission. You do not need reassurance. You carry direction internally. This is lifelong. Not a moment. Not a phase. Each day, you choose alignment. Each choice reinforces identity. Each repetition strengthens destiny. When challenges come, you stay present. When decisions arise, you decide. When discomfort appears, you lead. This is your way now. Say it internally. Let it settle. No urgency. No force. I am ready. I rise. I decide who I become. Silence holds what words no longer need to say. Certainty replaces noise. Completion stands quietly. Carry this forward, not as inspiration, as structure, as standard, as truth lived daily. This is not the end. It is the position you now stand from. Walk forward with clarity, discipline, and calm authority, allowing each action to reflect the truth you now command, without hesitation, distraction, or retreat ever again from yourself.
You made it to the end. That already says something about you. Most people stop early. You stayed. If this audiobook challenged you, if it sharpened your focus, if it reminded you of who you're becoming, then don't let this be a one-time moment. This channel exists for people who choose growth, discipline over comfort, clarity over noise, progress over excuses. If you want more audiobooks like this, more mindset training, more leadership, more inner strength, subscribe, like this video so it reaches the people who need it, and share it with someone who's ready to rise but hasn't found the words yet. Stay consistent, protect your mind, and keep moving forward. This is only the beginning.